While Wall Street went wild, the real drama came from inside the Beltway. Our own Eamon Javers is back at headquarters with all the details. Eamon.
Yeah, Melissa, that's right. We had this wild press conference from the president in the East Room down in Washington, D.C. But then shortly after that, late this afternoon, the White House announced that the president had removed his attorney general, Jeff Sessions, replacing him with Sessions' own chief of staff, Matthew Whitaker, who is seen as somebody who is more friendly to the Trump White House, who is somebody who has been critical of the special counsel's office straying too far from its mission. Whitaker having written about a year ago an op-ed piece in which he suggested that the special counsel should not investigate the president's family and finances, that he should stick to the knitting of just investigating Russia. So this is seen as a move by the president that will have the effect of constraining the Mueller investigation into the Russia matter, at least keeping it focused on where it began, which was that question of Donald Trump and Russia, and is there any connection there? Meanwhile, the president at that press conference this afternoon was asked about the possibility of cooperating with Democrats. Here's how he phrased what his relationship with the Democrats is likely to be like going forward.
If they start investigating you, that you can play that game and investigate
better
them.
than them.
Can you compartmentalize that?
And I think I know more than they know.
Can you compartmentalize that and still continue to work with them for the benefit of the rest of the country?
No.
Or are all bets off?
No. If they do that, then it's just all it is a warlike posture.
So the president there is saying that if Democrats investigate him, then all it's going to be in terms of his relationship is a warlike posture between the White House and House Democrats. That the Democrats are signaling on Capitol Hill they are going to go forward with some investigations. So that gives you a sense where we might be headed with that. And then one more to flag for you guys. This one might be of interest to folks on Wall Street. The president was asked today at that press conference whether or not he would consider a deal that would raise the corporate tax rate in order to lower middle-class tax rates. Would he be open to such a trade-off with Democrats? He seemed to leave the door open. Take a listen to that exchange.
As an example, if the Democrats come up with an idea for tax cuts, which I'm a big believer in tax cuts, I would absolutely pursue something, even if it means some adjustment.
Even if it means some adjustment, the president there suggesting that he's willing to look at a deal that would raise the corporate rate, but no indication that we're going to get a tax deal next year because, as we saw, the president and the Democrats up on Capitol Hill are at loggerheads already, and we're not even 24 hours out from the election results last night, Melissa.
You know, Eamon, when the headlines came out that Jeff Sessions essentially was fired, you were on set with me on Power Lunch, and we immediately jumped to this possibility of constitutional crisis. Can you walk us through the dominoes as to how we get from here to there? Because that is what the markets, I mean, on the worst case scenario, needs to be looking at in terms of pricing things in.
Sure. Well, we're not at a constitutional crisis right now, right? The president has the authority to remove the attorney general. The attorney general serves at the pleasure of the president, as they say. The question now is what comes next in terms of next steps? Is the president satisfied with this? Or does he also take steps to remove Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general who's been overseeing the Russia investigation? Does he also take a step to fire Mueller himself, the special counsel, the former head of the FBI who's been investigating him? The president has suggested today that he has the authority to fire all of those people, but that could provoke an enormous political backlash because it would look like the president is trying to stop an investigation that may be getting too close to home for him, and that's an inherent conflict of interest. And I think that's where you get this talk of constitutional situations and problems, and that's where you're going to see a big political reaction up on Capitol Hill.
Eamon, thank you. Eamon Javers from headquarters. So a lot to unpack here, but one thing is clear. The news that Jeff Sessions was out actually accelerated after the rally here. Wall Street had already embraced the end result of gridlock after the election. So how long will this euphoria last, or will worries about the Fed and trade come back to haunt the market, Tim?
Well, the market was not at all worried about constitutional crisis today, and I think the market actually should be worried about the Fed. The Fed actually tomorrow will give you some statement. Tomorrow also, you know, you're going to actually have digested China trade data tonight on exports, imports, trade balance, et cetera. And we closed at 8.5-year highs on the 10-year today. So let's not forget that rates are a big issue. Again, we closed at 8.5-year highs on the 10-year. What's been hurting this market? I think it's been the Fed. I think it's been rates. I don't think it's been midterm elections.
But in terms of what had happened today, when it happened overnight,
right,
we're looking at gridlock already, and then we get the Jeff Sessions news. Does that all but ensure that gridlock will actually stymie any efforts on either side to get things done?
I think gridlock is what the market is counting on right now. They want to put a check and balance on Trump. Everything that should have rallied, so you had a risk-on trade today. But I think it's too far, too fast. I'd give it a little breathing room. I'm looking for a little bit of give back in the next couple of days.
Right, you're saying that same thing. Too much.
I thought it was too much. I mean, you know, the outcome was not shocking, right? That was what everyone sort of thought was the most likely scenario, is exactly what happened. So the rally, I don't know. I kind of thought it was overdone. And the issues that haunted the market are still very much there, as each of them said. The Fed and trade, and actually the market rising gives Trump a little more room, a little more rope, or call it whatever you want, to have a harder line, right? If we're doing better, China's doing worse, that gives him a little more negotiating power. So I wasn't so delighted, actually.
And after midterms, he's got the ability now. He was holding back. He pulled the reins in before midterms to go softer stance on China.
Right.
And now it allows him to say, let me go hard, real hard on China.
Oh, he went hard today. I mean, he went hard on everybody and everything around him. I mean, I think that one of the things that's interesting about the market reaction today is you removed a big uncertainty, right? So no one knew what was going to happen and how markets were going to react to it. And I wouldn't expect him sounding off at this press conference for the markets to react one way or the other either. That being said, I think that he's increasingly getting cornered here. I think that this is not really his stock market anymore. And I think when you think about the risk to this rally at this point, I think you have to think about European banks are down 30% from their 2018 highs.
But what do you mean it's not his stock market anymore? What do you mean?
Because I think for the very reason, I think that it's very unlikely there's going to be any more fiscal stimulus. I think there's very unlikely there's going to be any signature legislation that gets done bipartisan over the next year.
But isn't he still focused on it, though, Dan? I mean, I think China trade ultimately will be something he has to do something with, because his scorecard is still the market.
He has control to do that, regardless of how Congress is made up.
He just said that he goes to war if the co-equal branch of government that the Democrats just won start to do some oversight that branch of government was not doing prior. That's the way the government is supposed to work here, okay? So if he's going to war, then what gets done at that point? Nothing's going to get done.
War on China.
There is a commonality where the Democrats probably want him to be tougher on a lot of these trade deals. That's actually a huge bipartisan issue where the Democrats might even push him to go further on China than he otherwise would have went with the Republicans.
Why do you think that?
Because it's a bipartisan issue. Everyone's been worried about the same issues for the last 20 years regarding China. This is the first president that's actually put his finger on the button, and Democrats actually back him up a lot more than Republicans.
So basically, you're pricing in that going tougher on China is all but a foregone conclusion.
I think that you should see him get a little bit tougher. Maybe it's after the meetings. Maybe he doesn't do it. Maybe it's after the meetings. Maybe there's not a great outcome. He gets a little more of a hard line.
Trade is a political issue, though. I think when we thought at least the first rounds of trade, especially as it was directed on China, was for Rust Belt states, was for certainly pivotal states to actually go after those votes that were most important to this president. I agree that, look, this should be a bipartisan issue. I think this should be more about intellectual property and technology ripoff and all the things that we care about. But I do believe that trade has been a political. Hey, I talked about this on the campaign trail.
It's all and by the way, but it's something that both Democrats and Republicans have been talking about for a long time.
Yeah,
so I think
this is
to your point, though, I don't think that this animosity. Yes, there's going to be a lot of it. There's going to be a lot of contentious behavior. But I think this is something that they probably both agree on.
I'm just going to say that the way that he dealt with NAFTA, he put a deadline on this. This is not how the China thing is going to get worked. We're not going to fix a budget deficit. I don't really believe that is what this is about. This is really about forced technology transfer. This is going to take months, if not quarters. So at the best case scenario, we get some agreement to start working on it constructively, not the sort of messaging that we saw last week between the president and Larry Kudlow, because that was just a mess. And if they want to do this on Twitter, then it's going to be a mess. And it's going to be the sort of headline that market participants are not going to like to see.
So are you not constructive on this market?
Well, no.
So
my point is
what does this all mean?
I think we have to focus on global growth. I think a miscue here, as we are tightening right now, as the dollar is rising, as the 10-year is at 3.23 at 8-year highs, I think we have the potential to see a thaw in global growth. And we're already seeing it in Europe and Asia. Look at these Macau numbers that we just saw out of wind today. So the point is, I think our economy is much more fragile than Larry Kudlow goes on cable TV and tells the world every day.
So you're negative.
I'm just cautious. Listen, Mel,
this
is positive for Dan.
When we have a market moving the way it did today, we could be back at 29.40 like that. And I said that last week, too. So I'm not big.
Look, we've moved 8% in 7 days, folks. We've moved 140 S&P points in a blink.
I mean, October's almost gone. I mean, what happened in
to be
October's
cautious at this point, which I hear everybody doing, yes, we also know about these seasonals. We also know about the post-midterm dynamics. We also know that the market was overly bearish and that, in fact, a lot of this rally's come after an extreme move to the downside. So we've removed some uncertainty. The world is not coming to an end, and I think that's probably how we approach the end of the year.